As the reader more and more can see, we are controlled by karma, and by making us believe that everything is karmic, the alien force has an easier time controlling even the afterlife because we humans are to a large degree controlling it ourselves by creating a rest place in which we spend time pondering our previous life, deciding what we did right and what we did wrong. Our emotional body, still intact in the afterlife, has since long been manipulated into believing that it's necessary to come back to Earth until our karmic cycle is complete, which is unlikely that it ever will be because we are creating new karmic acts as we go along with our lives. Thereby, we are trapping ourselves unnecessarily, while the alien invader force is more or less just sitting in the background, watching it all happen before their very eyes, patting each other's backs, bragging about how clever they are and how stupid humanity is. There is more we need to cover here in order for people to understand what they are talking about in regards to chakras and kundalini. It's not that we shouldn't touch on these subjects when we evolve as a species, but there is, as always, a fine line between liberation and imprisonment. If we don't know this, how can we possibly liberate ourselves? Therefore, let's continue and reveal some additional imperative information. This paper is mainly about death and the afterlife, but I also want to extend it to enlightenment and control of both life and death. In the bigger scheme, it is all connected and meant to keep us in check, regardless how clever we think we are when we are trying to enlighten ourselves and reach higher states of consciousness. In New Age, but even in many teachings in general about enlightenment, the discussion is about the third eye located inside our foreheads, where the pineal gland is. This is also known as the sixth chakra, and we are under the impression that we should use our third eye to perceive things that are outside our normal range of reality, i.e. the third dimension. However, we can also clearly see that where the third eye is located, there are cobras, snakes, and vultures, birds, coming out, as can be seen in the ancient pharaohs' headdresses. What are the snakes and the bird tribe associated with Enki and the alien invader force? Isn't there something on with that picture? Well, we can say, the ancient pharaohs we certainly initiated in ancient secret societies, and they knew about the pineal gland and the third eye. It's as simple as that, nothing strange with it. Okay, let's move on, and we'll see if that is correct or not. The Nagas are known as the snake people, and many of them are also known to live underground in the vicinity of King Nergal and Queen Ereshkigal. They are said to be the servants to the king and the queen, as we've discussed earlier. Let's see if the Vedas have some connection to Nergal and Ereshkigal. They do, in fact, more than one, which can be expected. We have mentioned the connection before, such as Kali being equated to Ereshkigal and Kala to Nergal. Other connections are Kadru as the mother of the Nagas and consort to Kashyapa, who we know is an avatar of Vishnu. Kadru would therefore easily be associated with Ereshkigal. Who then is the king of the Nagas, the snake people? After not too much effort, we find out that the king of the Nagas is one of the primal beings of creation, according to some, and according to Bhagavata Purana, the king is the avatar to the supreme god, known as Narayana. Narayana is also known as Vishnu and Hari. Ananta is the celestial snake, on which Lord Vishnu reclines. If we look up Ananta, this term means endless, limitless, or eternal and infinite. In other words, we find snakes and snake people being quite common concepts in the Hindu religion. Ultimately, the snake or serpent is associated with Lucifer in the Garden of Eden, of course. We also have a trinity in the Vedas, exactly like we do in the Christian religion and elsewhere. In Hinduism, it takes form out of the term Trimurti. The Trimurti represents the cosmic functions of creation, maintenance, and destruction, and is personified by Brahma the creator, Vishnu the maintainer, and Shiva the destroyer or transformer. This trinity is also called the Hindu triad, or the Hindu trinity, all having the same meaning of three in one. Furthermore, the Vedas tell us that Vishnu is also venerated as Mukunda, which means God who is the giver of mukti or moksha, liberation from the cycle of rebirths, to his devotees or the worthy ones who deserve salvation from the material world. This is telling us that Lord Vishnu is the one responsible for liberating us from the material world, in this case, 3D here on Earth, the prison planet, but only for those who are his devotees or for those are worthy to deserve salvation from the material world. The rest of us are thrown to the wolves, literally and figuratively speaking, and get stuck in the recycling dramas, eons upon eons to come. Then, if we take this a little further, we get to this. Quote 8. In Hinduism, bhakti, also spelled bhakti, Sanskrit, literally meaning portion, share, from the root bhaj to partake in, to receive one's share, refers to religious devotion of a devotee in the worship of the divine. Within monotheistic Hinduism, it is the love felt by the worshipper towards the personal God, a concept expressed in Hindu theology as Istadevata, also as Svayam Bhagavan in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Finally, let's look at Svayam Bhagavan. Is a Sanskrit theological term for the concept of absolute representation of God as Bhagavan within Hinduism. He is the one eternal supreme being called Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, and Trimurti. As we can see from the above quotes, Lord Vishnu is controlling everything, including enlightenment. This is one reason why I have a hard time accepting the idea that we must wait before evolving to the next levels of consciousness until the rest of humanity has come to the same level. Doesn't that sound as something someone would say who embraces Vishnu's/Enki's manipulative system? If the alien invader force controls enlightenment, wouldn't their greatest fear be that all of humanity, or at least the majority, would see how the trap is constructed and manage to escape or take back what is rightfully theirs? Then, as an oxymoron, wouldn't the invaders want everybody to wait for each other so that they could continue controlling and defeating those who were on their way to make it? Of course they would. They'd rather see a few people escape occasionally, while they dedicate time to setting up the world they want the rest to live in. If we all waited for the rest to wake up, no one would escape the trap or be able to take back what is theirs. The way I see it is that those who are awake should educate as many as they can, and then move on in whatever direction they please. To tell people to wait is a concept that definitely comes from institutions, such as the NSA, and are put out on the internet to make people feel bad about themselves and thus halting their progress. We will talk more about this at a later point within the fifth level of learning. Another thing I believe we have seen through by now is how Enki and his son are setting up scenarios leading to traps for us to fall into. For example, we read in the Vedas how the Supreme God, Vishnu in most cases, manifests here on earth through avatars across various ages and time periods to save mankind from evil beings, such as the Asuras, and avatars of Shivas. It often looks as if Vishnu is a friend of humanity, while Shiva is not. In reality, it's just a game they play with us because we are considered too stupid to see through it. Vishnu and Shiva are never enemies, and Vishnu is not a friend of mankind, it's all mind games. John Lennon saw already in the 1970s that we are all subjected to mind games, so he wrote the song, Mind Games, which became the title song on the album with the same name. John Lennon was taken out,